Hello, 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 and welcome to another Daily Code Fun. I am One Lion. Happy Friday to all of you. It's Community Day. I hope you're all doing really well on this fantastic Friday. Hello, Deflux. Deflux is super excited about today, it looks like, with what is that, 40 O's or so in Woo. Hello, Good VJ. Fantastic to have you here. Settings. No, voice and video is what I'm looking for. And real tech. Arigato. So, Deflex is saying I'm learning how to do peer-to-peer network in C#. Awesome. I'm trying to learn how to do testing still. I spent all of this morning continuing to do my review for the exam that I'm going to take on Sunday. It's going to be fun. I'm going to do well. We're going to pass it. We're going to get our AZ204 certification. And then I won't have to think about it for another 2 years. I'll probably still end up working on a couple of other certifications. Hopefully I won't be under such a time crunch. I know that it was like 2 months, but it still felt like not a lot of time, and mostly because it wasn't on my time. It was, I am required to get this certification before the end of September. And it's just like, that's not how I operate. I will get certifications. I will get stuff done, but on my time. And then if someone tells me I have to do it, it's like, I'll get it done, but I'm gonna struggle with it. Anyway, hi. So, being Community Day, as you know, I like to invite people into one of the voice channels in Discord, not just any voice channel, but a specific voice channel in Discord. If you want to come in and talk about any specific topic that is preferably technology related, and yeah, we can have a discussion about it. I haven't prepared anything in the future. I don't know how far in the future, but I will keep saying this until it happens. In the future, I plan on having topics prepared that we will discuss on community days, and maybe just some more interactive content. Like most of the week when I am just programming or when I am working on the project, I'm chatting with you guys and I'm talking with you and I'm engaging with you, but we're not actually doing anything together per se. Like, I guess over the course of this past week, you guys have been helping me a lot with testing and understanding how test works, so I appreciate that. But it's not like we're actually really doing anything together. You're still kind of just around while I work on this project, because this is a project that I wanted to have done, and I also wanted to learn a lot from it. So I wanted to pick up those design skills from the Figma, or from the UI UX aspect, and I'm using Figma to do that, is what I meant to say, as well as picking up some testing methodology, how to mock things and stuff like that. Good VJ is saying, my boss and company is planning to make a project in Erlang. Would you brief what that is? If I had more information on Erlang, yes, I would give you that information. But I don't. So I don't think that I would be able to give you much without doing the actual research and then reading off the same thing that you could find if you just Googled what is Erlang. But yeah, it's not that Figma sold out. It's that Adobe acquired them. Same thing, right? But yeah, it's really cool. I'm kind of excited about it because it's possible that that means that Adobe will include Figma in their Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, which I do have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, and I would love to have whatever paid features you get from Figma. I'm going to go ahead and relock this. Oh, wow. Deflux, congratulations. Deflux just said he got a 6% pay raise today. So officially, he didn't get a pay cut as opposed to these 2.5 to 3% pay raises that we've seen over the past couple of decades, couple of years. So congratulations on that. That's really cool to hear. I am still my brain is still so far swamped. It's drowning. I was having trouble. Like, I don't usually have trouble paying attention to courses and tutorials and stuff. And I'm about 6 hours into the review, the cram course, and my brain was just going, I'm really tired. Like last night, I ended up just like stopping the video and laying over on the couch and just kind of just vegging. Oh man, it was rough. But like today especially, I was sitting on the couch, and I think that's maybe one of the issues is I was sitting on the couch because I didn't want to stand and have any of the aches for Sunday, because I'll most likely be standing and I'll turn the desk, or not turn the desk, turn the monitor so it's facing that way, and then everything over this way is, whatever is going to make it seem easier for the proctor to be able to proctor the exam. Um, yeah, yeah. So we'll see. We will see. And Good VJ is saying XD is similar. Yeah, and I did use XD, but for some reason, I really did find that Figma. Well, there are a few benefits of Figma. One is that at least for now, I have no idea if this is still going to be the case, but for now, there is a free version of Figma that is available on the interwebs that everyone has access to. And so that means that there are a lot of shared Figma boards for the general public. I'm trying to get back to the main Figma page, and I have no idea how to do that from here. So for example, on my Figma, on my Figma somewhere. Wow, this part of it isn't very easy to navigate. How do I get to my home page for Figma? Okay, this is where I was trying to get. That was non-intuitive. But anyway, I have the MRTK Figma so that if I wanted to, I could use the components that they put together to sketch out my own AR experience. And because this is so popular, because there are so many people using it, then I find Figma to be better than Adobe XD. Even if Adobe XD is more featured, I don't know if it is or isn't. I can't say that. I did find Adobe XD pretty easy to use when I was messing around with it to create the Shadowstone design. Let's see if I actually have it anywhere. Has track. So I found it to be fairly similar, like you said, Good VJ, but yeah, I don't know. It just felt, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know how to describe it. Just the fact that there seems to be a lot more usability to Figma now that I've used both of them, and I took to this a lot easier than I did with Adobe XD. Oh man, my nose is starting to drip. Give me 1 second so I can clear my nose. Awesome. Thank you for your patience. Oops, that is the screen. Okay, so yeah, so that's Figma. If you guys are wondering what we're talking about, there was news about 2 days ago that Adobe announced they were acquiring Figma. Hello, Irish John Games. Konnichiwa. If you guys don't know, El Señor John. Definitely check him out. I want to do a. It's Friday. I am going to do a video shout out for Irish John Games and see what kind of shenanigans we can get. Which one of you guys is my shout out clips? Let's make sure it's turned up loud enough so we can hear all of this wonderful good stuff from his channel.
I think there's a good chance that we're
what's the secret ingredient for pancakes?
we're about to get some knowledge thrown our way.
Is this working? Hope not.
No.
I'm so deaf.
That kind of stuff doesn't work, thankfully.
The ingredients we love: simple, no fail recipes, and this pancake recipe is just that. It's quick to make, and we are willing to bet you've got everything you need to make them right now.
I really don't like that I decided to set the max length of the shoutout clips to about 29 seconds in case there are any DMCA copyright music in them, because the shoutout clips, the audio from the shoutout clips does get posted to YouTube with my recording, and I just wanted to make sure that it's less than 30 seconds of a song so I don't get the copyright claim. But I also am sad that I miss out on the punchline sometimes. But I'll take those pancakes. And actually, what his name is? Thindle. Those are my AZ204 notes. Thindle pointed me to a recipe for this thing called, actually, you know what? I don't know why I'm getting Notepad because you can't really see pictures of it from here. Pointed me to a recipe that I've been wanting to make, but it's like it doesn't need that much wheat flour, and they only come in 5-pound bags from my grocery store, so I need a way to get a smaller quantity of wheat flour so that I can make this. But anyway, it's called Flas Pantuens Pankaka. Flask Pankaka. Oh my goodness. And you use this thick cut pork. There's just so many different pictures of this. And so I want to make it so bad. But it's pretty much pancakes that are baked in the oven in a casserole dish with bacon inside of it. Like, where was that picture that just made my heart already stop? Oh, it looks so good. I am so looking forward to trying this. Tommy knows what it is. Flas pankaka is also what I call the framework I work in Flask. I get it whenever I get frustrated. Looks like Cake and Pancake had a child with bacon at that. Oh my gosh. And it looks so good. Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I have to wait because I didn't quite get the ingredients for it. And you can make it in a bundt pan too. And then this just looks like a quiche. It still looks tasty. Oh my goodness. Anyway. Python flask panakaka. Not just pankaka. Panakaka. Awesome. Django Kaka. Yes, I love it. I love it. Eating the competitor, same thing done by Facebook and Google. Yeah, isn't that like starting to become something that is being harder fought, where government Governments are trying to make it so that these major tech companies aren't allowed to do that. I don't know that Adobe counts as one of the major companies. They're not quite Amazon. I was going to say their name wrong. Meta, Alphabet, Microsoft, Netflix. I'm down. Let's make it a library that just flattens things you put into it. Yes, just like pancakes. Oh, I love it. That would be awesome. Oh no. Oh, it's in my pocket. It's in my pocket. Okay, so once again, the stream room is open. I'll try to keep my eye on the stream waiting room. If there is anyone that wants to come in and talk about a technology topic or a project that you're working on or wants to have a discussion, again, geared around technology, preferably, then just hop into the stream waiting room. If I don't notice you're in there, just let me know. Your voice will come through on the stream. It'll also be recorded for the video. Yeah, this, that, and the other thing. That was a terrible, terrible break for that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish out trying to complete our idea from yesterday regarding mocking the data. So we started this data mock helpers, for populating random transaction data. And so what I'm doing to generate the transaction data is we're going to generate X number of records every time we call generate deposit transactions, which is going to give us a list of transaction back. And it's going to give us a transaction with an ID of the starting ID up through the starting ID plus count -1. Yeah, cool. And to finish this out, what I'm gonna do is what I'm gonna do is say what am I gonna say? I am gonna say date entered. Oh, right. Date entered is gonna be UTC date time now. I wonder if I can just like add a random amount. It doesn't matter. We're not testing anything with date entered for now. Deflex says, he's about to start thinking out loud. I can feel it. I can feel it. Posting date, we're gonna do random dot shared dot next double between 0 and 1 is less than 0.5. 0 and 1. Oh, it's just going to be next double. It doesn't take parameters. It doesn't? Really? Okay, whatever. Anyway, so if a random number between 0 and 1 is less than 0.5, then it's going to get transaction date plus 1. Why not? Which is, oh man, I don't have a way to get back the same random date. Once again, we'll just do date time UTC now. Why not? Because I don't want the posting date to be before the transaction date. Otherwise, it's going to be null. So Deflex is saying, yes, indeed. How do I debug a thing that just dies? Do I put a try catch in it? Or I did put a try catch in it, but it doesn't hit. Are you doing a fire and forget? Are you running it as a task and not awaiting it? Because if so, that's going to be hard to actually see the catch. your exceptions just kind of go into the ether. So what I would do is put some debug.log, or if you have a logger, some logger.log error stuff in the catch block. So for example, in this service, let's say that we set up this add as a fire and forget. It's an async task, but nothing is awaited. Yeah, so let's say that somewhere we called task.run add transaction data, new, we'll just do default T data entry model. You gave me one too many parentheses, buddy. Anyway, let's say that we did this the right way. And then we just called this. Chances are we're not going to see any exceptions that happen from this running. But if you do a try catch like you said you have, but instead of trying to debug this, you actually had a logger, then you could do logger.log error. But you'd have to have a logger. Otherwise, you could do debug.write line using system diagnostics. But that would only be if you're running this inside of like from a console or somewhere that you can see the output. But a logger would be the better recommendation. And of course, the best recommendation is to write a test for it that actually properly awaits it and feeds it the same shape and type of data. So Tommy said if it's at all possible, I would break it into as simple steps as possible and try catch each of those, trying to figure out where it's happening in the process, in my opinion, unless it's literally only doing one thing. Yeah, and then since it's fire and forget, he said, I don't know. Yeah. So live coding is saying even if it's a fire and forget, so even if I did a test.run or just don't even need a test.run, you could just execute it like this. It's still possible that you won't get the exceptions, but you could still hit breakpoints that are set inside of it if it's something that you can attach a debugger to, is what live coding is saying. Okay, good ideas. Good ideas all around. Inside out. I liked your idea too, Tommy. Which one of you guys is open? I have 2 water bottles down here, so I don't run out of water today. I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay, so the debugger doesn't do anything. I step into and it just dies. So what are you stepping into? Are you placing the breakpoint inside of the method and it's not hitting that breakpoint? Like you do, I have an add transaction data somewhere up here. and I'm able to hit this point, but then if I do an F11 or step into or whatever, and I have a breakpoint down here, it's just completely ignoring that. Is that what you're saying? But the issue is still that you're getting an exception. Uh, that's the underlying issue. You're pretty sure that you're getting an exception, but you're not seeing it anywhere, and you don't know how to debug it. So maybe it's not even executing. Maybe that's what the main thing is, actually. So there is no exception because the task is not executing. Yeah, okay. So there are other things in the tasks that are being run, and so you're hitting breakpoints to that. That's what I was wondering. So you're inside of that task, and you're hitting breakpoints inside of that task, correct? But there is something that when you try to step into, that is just kind of skipping over it and not doing anything. It's just disappearing. Like your execution cursor goes back up to the rest of your code. And Tyrandez is giving some important settings. Two advanced things. First, enable all exceptions in the exception settings on the debug menu. And second, in the options, just disable just my code. So I know where that is. You can go tools, options, and just type in just my code, and you'll be able to uncheck that, because it could just be stepping over something that you don't control. Or sorry, not that you don't control, that isn't part of this package, part of the application that you're running. So it could be a reference NuGet package. Maybe it's an internal NuGet package that's causing the issue, but that would help you at least deconstruct them and step through that code too. And then you can get to the exceptions settings window by pushing Control-Alt-E, and then that's where you can enable all exceptions. So it's live coding. The only other way that I know how to get to it is while you're debugging when you hit an exception. Cool. But what I was trying to get to is when you get to the line that has the error, the one that when you try to step into it, everything just kind of goes back to the main thread. F12 on that method, debug window exception settings is another way to get to it. F12 into that method and try placing a breakpoint inside of there. And then Tyrant says common language runtime exceptions, change it from a gray box to a check. Live coding says we will solve this for you. Ignore everything one line is saying. Listen to us. No, I like those. I really like those ideas. The debug settings. And then, of course, the alternative is to find a way to await that task. The greater we. We've got this. Says live coding. Okay, I guess I'll include myself in the greater we. I will stop diminishing myself. Ooh, it looks like he has some information. Something new happened. He's looking at the docs and pushing enter every 2 seconds. And they have an async version of this. I'm about to turn slow mode on for you. Oh, ew. The code I'm currently using is .NET Framework version of it. We're sending 1 word per line now? I mean, your reaction was 1 word, so it kind of counts. You almost played along. I only do it on requests. 'Twas not a request. I was merely pointing out that you have elected to go back to typing 3 words and 5 words and hitting enter when you had not been doing that for some time. Uh, okay, so while I'm waiting for more chat to come in, I am going to fill in the details for these records so that it'll generate random generic data. And I know that there is a way that you can get a library that will generate random data for you. So the thing that I learned about this is we're not really testing the content of the data. So if we want something like a string field, so let's say we had memo, then I wanted a memo for, let's say, 20% of the things. Then I could just do something like GUID.new GUID.toString, and I'll get random text. Who cares what the text is? I have text in there now. Otherwise, it'll be null string. And then our deposit raisins. And to be safe, the easiest thing that I can do for the deposit ID is to use the exact same ID as the transaction, because there will be no 2 transactions with the same ID provided that I keep passing in the right start ID. So I won't have to worry about collisions with IDs in the deposit table if I just use the same ID as the transaction itself. So then our deposit raisin ID is going to be, and we'll always use a known deposit reason ID, which we have set up here. And so we will always have at least 1. And do you get any other amount? Do I really not have? Oh, that doesn't make sense. Where did I put it? Does anyone know where I put the amount for deposits? So payments would have the associated line items. So is it transaction detail really? Is that why I still had transaction detail? Yeah, we still have a list of transaction details. So it's like we have our transaction record, and then we either have a deposit, a payment, or transfer record associated with it for that additional data. And we have a list or a collection of transaction details associated with it as well. I was thinking that I put the amounts inside of here, which means that I would have the transaction detail only in payments. But that's not how I did it. Okay, so at least we'll have a sample of maybe what I intended this to look like. I trust you, brain. I trust you. So we will have transaction details, new list. Actually, we can just do new. Actually, no, we can't because it's in my collection. New list of transaction detail. And what I think I was intending is that we will use, well, same thing here. We're going to do, oh, right. And that's the other thing. We need the transaction ID. Start ID plus E. All right, you're going to have an ID. Oh, we're going to have one of these. Oh, that's going to be hard for generating payments. Oh man, that's going to be hard. Taking an ID for a transaction detail, maybe? No, we can't even do that. What we could do is something more like start ID plus E times 100. Plus E. Yeah. Actually, we can do, we can manually plus them. Yeah, we can manually plus them when we have something that has more than one transaction detail. That way, it's almost like the transaction itself is the series, and then all of the individual numbers after it, the ones and tens places, because I don't think we're going to have 100 transaction detail lines. So transaction detail would be, here's the subtotal, here's the sales tax, delivery fee, other types of fees that we paid for this transaction, paid on this transaction. I doubt we would have more than 100. So a range of start ID plus the number times 100, and then the ones, tens, and hundreds place. Ones and tens place will be the transaction detail unique ID. That works. Hello, Gerald. Geralt? Odd. Welcome into the Daily Code Fund. Today is Community Day. It is Friday, so what Community Day means for our stream is not much at the moment. It used to be a lot more lively, but I like to invite people into our Discord voice channel if they have any topics that they want to talk about that are software related, technology related, projects maybe that they are working on, and would benefit everyone as a community. In the future, I plan to have prepared topics that we can discuss, as well as community activities. Something that is more focused on you guys and me doing something together. Our general stream is what's happening now, which is I read out chat, we have conversations that way, and I just keep working on whatever it is that I'm working on, taking advice from you guys, giving advice to whoever wants advice, and yeah. Tommy says, my Friday topic question of the day is, how do you guys like to handle creating documentation when transitioning out of company, especially in situations where you were the only one who knows what was going on in the app bonus points if it was an internal tool? Live Coding was the first to respond. And he said 1 month period where someone shadows you full time. Short of that, a 4 hour recorded video. I really should have done recordings. I should have done videos. 4 hour recorded video meeting where you go over everything and have a video they can look at when you're gone. Man, that's such a good idea. What I ended up doing was, I don't know if I'll be able to log in. Do you have access to this still? I do. Great. What I ended up doing was making a documentation repository. Oh, let me finish reading the rest of Life Coding's thing. In ops, they talk about run books, and I'm trying to do that a lot at my current job. And Tommy said, smart, what if no one's going to be filling the role until after you're gone and or there's no one to shadow you? I'm the solo dev for my company for our internal BI tool. Step 1, document while you code. That's my very, very beginning thing. And I know that as full stack solo developers, you don't have time. You don't have time to do it. There's just way too much stuff for you to know how to do, for you to manage, for you to work on. That documentation is like, I don't have time. But if you put in that time, then when it comes time to make your continuance documentation, man, that was hard to come up with, then you'll have a lot less to do. But what I did is I created a documentation repo for all of the projects that are related. The basic, the stuff that I wish I knew when I first came into this job, because there were no other developers. So I said, here's some background information about the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. Here's how you get started with our projects. Here's my standard project structure. Here are all of the applications and what they do. I didn't have any of this when I got here. So giving this broad overview in one repo with as much of your knowledge dump as you can, but video is so much better. You're so right, live coding. I should have done that. So even if you do create a repo or your wiki, you could upload a video as a file as part of your wiki. But man, I wish I would have thought about that. I mean, I was streaming at the time and I have the setup to be able to do a video, but that's a great idea. You can still make a video if you're pressed for time and just record yourself going over everything. They won't watch it probably, but you will have done your part. Man, I really like that idea. But yeah, so mine was writing it out in a single repo and then going through each of the repos themselves as I had time and saying, here is the overview of what this repo is. All of them have the same basic getting started, and then there were some extra helpful things. I hope they were helpful for the next dev. But yeah, I did the best that I could. So for me, it was all about writing comments in the repo as README files, as wikis, with a knowledge dump, hopefully in an organized way, but a knowledge dump nonetheless, so that the next developer would have at least something that they could grab onto and be like, all right, I have at least a handle on this. We're using Blazor and it's set up using .NET 6, and there is a database repository that has all of our databases to include the identity store database, and here's how you get started. Don't forget your secrets. Don't forget all of this other stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. For me, it was definitely putting in the time to put this together, but a video would have been so much better. video. Where were you 3, 4, 5 months ago? Live coding. I'm sure you were around, and I'm sure you gave me that recommendation. And hello, prog testing. Konnichiwa. So Tommy said, I tried to honestly let them allow me to consult them 15 hours a week. Me too. Me too. Until their transition is completed, but I don't know if they're going to go for it. Mine was, since I'm working at a consulting agency, and the company that currently holds the contract for the job that I was doing is also a consultancy. My current company was like, you know what? That would be in violation of our code of ethics and whatever the other thing was. Employment agreement. Unless I was going to do it for free. And I was like, I could do it for free. I could be available to answer general questions, but I am not going to use up a lot of my time, even though I still did a lot of my time working on the product for them, since they do have a developer, although he is a junior developer, and they're not backfilling my position apparently. Oh, it's crazy. Dukesoft, happy Monday. Hey, wait. But yeah, so great question. If anyone else wants to give that question a stab and you feel like talking about it with your voice, then just hop into voice channel or just respond in chat. Doesn't really matter. So the question that Tommy posed was, let's say you're leaving a job soon. How do you handle doing documentation to transition out? And two scenarios. One, you have someone that is there that will take over, or you don't have anyone that's there because you're a solo dev and you have no idea how long it'll be before they backfill your position. But the short of that one is no one's going to be there that you can talk to directly and give information to. I learned 2 weeks ago about runbooks in Azure, like they're a specific product, which is cool. But I still am not 100% comfortable with making runbooks. You make the documentation as a quiz. Ask your questions, prog testing. I want to hear your questions too, as well as also. So live coding is going to hop into voice channel soon. Amount, let's say 2341.7656. Specific amount. It needs to be .76. Description is going to be only if. Oh, actually, no, this is going to be random.shared.next double times 20. Oh, yeah, we can do that. 2341, except we're going to do up to $23,000. So anyway, it'll be some random number between 0 and $23,415. And we'll just plus 1 so that we don't ever go to 0. Irish John Games got confused. Dukesoft, you confused him. Irish John Games was like, I legit have no idea what day it is. I was like, wait, is it? Oh, I mean, you stream like every day of the week, and you don't have anything that's requiring you to know what day it is. So I can understand why you got confused. You know what, though? Good might be too many characters. I don't think that's going to matter because we're not even using a daddy base. Oh no. Okay. Okay, that was scary. Got to keep my eye on chat because I'm gonna forget that live coding said he's gonna be in there. It's the best Monday Friday ever. Okay, so that's gonna be our deposit. Was there anything else I needed? Yes, I need the line item type, which is gonna be 1, just to have a line item type that is a real line item type, and the transaction ID, which is gonna be start ID plus E. Okay, so this should be enough to give us a bunch of transactions so that when we are setting up our deposit test, we are going to, instead of getting a list of deposit, we are going to say data helper dot get, excuse me, generate, no wonder. And we're going to start at ID 1. Oh, it's mock data helper, data mock helper, mock data helper. 1 comma, give me 20 of them. Why not? As Corbo build mock set. Why didn't that work? Oh, because that's a list of transactions. Oh, 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 right. I had this in mind too. So var transactions equals, just give me this only. All right. So now I need to pull out the different parts of it to get just the transactions and just the deposits. So deposits equals transactions dot select many. So this is how you flatten out a list. Wait, there's only one deposit that is possible. My bad. If this was a list of line item types, so that's what we're going to need. Our list of transaction detail is going to be the thing that we need to flatten out. So this one is going to be deposits. So that I can say transactions equals, or actually transactions dot for each t dot deposit equals null. Var trans details is transactions dot select many. Yes, that's better. And then transactions dot for each t dot transaction details is null. Oh, it's not nullable. I wonder if I actually need to do this. We might not need to do this. Oh, protesting asked his questions. The reason that we might not need to do this is because we're only going to be querying the transactions table, and we're going to add a new transaction. But there is another thing. Oh man, I want to do too many things all at once. Okay, so let's go into the chats. Oh, and there's live coding as well. Let me read off prog testing's thing real quick, and then I will grab live coding into the voice channel. I have a new client that needs a dashboard. I made a layout, but I have a simple question. Why do I need a controller or a backend to call APIs? Can't I just use HTTP client? Yes, but you need the API itself. I keep reading that I have to use reverse proxy. What is this sorcery? I don't really know that you need to. So let me pull in live coding. Konnichiwa. You're going to hear duplicates of me. Howdy. Howdy, he says. Do you have a response to prog testing before you get started? He said, again, it's like you don't need it to call the APIs. You're right. You only need a HTTP client or something that can do a web request to an API endpoint. No. Oh, wait, he is doing it in Blazor, but it doesn't really matter. Um, he could be making a console app or a desktop app that's calling into an API client. No, I think it's just a HTTP request to the API. So like you create or you inject a HTTP client and then you do .get from JSON or post as JSON or whatever you feel like doing to your API endpoint. And he's like, he keeps reading that he needs to use a reverse proxy, and it's like, you don't? Yeah. So the overall answer is you don't need to. If you are making a dashboard, though, chances are you're going to need something like what Live Coding said, maybe use WebSockets or gRPC or something that's going to get real-time data from whatever it is that you're creating the dashboard for. But anyway, hi Live Coding. Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's on them. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not usually one to agree with that kind of attitude because I'm like, you put in as much work as you put in to satisfy yourself. But I am the type of person that would kill myself over making sure that I have everything covered and that the next person after me doesn't have the same struggles that I did. But there has to be a point in time where you're just like, I can only do as much as I can do. So I should have started with what you said, starting with the assumption that the next person is going to have struggles to begin with, no matter what I do, and they're going to need to take initiative on their part, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And then I wouldn't have felt so stressed while I was doing that. So I agree. I'm going to have to 100% agree to deflux. You'll teach me all about Kafka and Kubernetes and everything. Oh, yes, RabbitMQ is so good. Yeah. It's out of the brain, off the books. Tyrant says I also like RabbitMQ. Yes. Houston. I'm not going to remember that. I'm not even going to write it down. I normally write down notes when you guys give me these little tidbits so I can remember. Yeah, yeah, we do. Yep. One of the few places that we still have a physical, actual office. Good times, you say. He thinks you're from Georgia. We're all the ones with accents. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Any of those, like, I'm sure I have a ton of stuff that I picked up that when I just joke about it, like, I randomly say words differently on purpose, and then I just say it that way as if that's the right way to pronounce it. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure it'll come up. Yeah. Y'all's interpretation. Yuns. Oh yeah, I was joking about yuns for a while, which is a Missouri thing. And then I started saying yuns all the time without even thinking about it. It's like, no, no, out, out. Right, right. Yeah, most of the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How to get set up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the main one is how to set up your dev environment because uh, accessing the resources in a very specific way, like here's a connection string for your database connection, but how do you store that somewhere securely? So it's like, well, you log into our virtual machine and read the docs from there. But how do you get into the virtual machine? Well, you use your credentials from here. Where do we store those secrets to get into that system, into AWS to manage users? It's like we have a manager, let him do it. It's rabbit holes. But like the hardest thing for me is still I have a customer base and those are all of my coworkers essentially that I'm writing this software for. And I feel that I have shown them that I'm capable of getting what they want done. And I haven't gotten as far as I wanted to. So then I feel a responsibility for getting it to a point where it's maintainable, it's manageable. And so that's what made me want to take all of that extra work to fill in the documentation and everything like that. That's the hardest part for me. That's kind of how I feel with Army. Oh, awesome. I mean, thankfully, the apps that I left them with are all usable and they perform the functions that they're supposed to. But there's so much work to be done on them. Like, they needed additional functionality or the ability to add more data that because I just, for one of the main applications, I just used the original logic, which didn't allow them to like add other systems. And it's like, why would you ever write an app that's for maintaining a whole bunch of water treatment plants and not allow the possibility of defining a new water treatment plant in the app to maintain the data. That doesn't make sense. That's what you say. I'm still responding to some questions. Oh. Yeah, I definitely don't make sense. Do you want to talk me through the rest of this mocking? Here's what you do. Control A. Cool. In very simple terms, I want to test the code that will be written for the server-side implementation of deposit add transaction data. No, so we will pass in the deposit view model, aka DTO, aka model, aka whatever you want to call it, data to that we are going to try to add to the database. And so what we have already set up for mocking is we ended up using mock so that we can use mock of this instead of creating an implementation for test, I guess, of each of the services, which is what I thought you're kind of gearing towards. Yeah. So we're mocking the service that'll provide the DB context factory. That works. We're mocking all of the DB context dot entity to return just a list of data, which means that we're probably going to mock the dot add as well. And we're going to mock, or we're just checking to see, were we able to get to the create DB context async, I think is what this tests right here. Verify we called save changes once. So the whole point of add transaction testing is none of the operations that we're performing, whether it's transforming the data, the view model into the entity, making sure that that doesn't break. And then I thought we would be testing the dot add to context. So context.transactions.add. Yeah. Right. Because like one of the things that I would want to know is the database assigning the ID? But at that point, that's an integration test, right? And this is more of a unit test that's like, is the code written in a way that's not going to crash? There is time. There's a ton of time. Oh, okay. I have a job too. Oh my gosh. But my job today is just a lot of studying. Hmm. Oh my goodness. Right. Yeah. Yay, I actually know what a dead letter Q is now. Woohoo. Turn on dead letter queuing, but no one watches it. And don't they automatically die after like, what was it, 600 hours? Mm, which is a long time. Mhm. Lots of stuff. Where do you put your secrets? The files on SharePoint. Go download it. Obviously, you connect to Azure Key Vault. Hmm. I've never ever worked at a place that had any. Like I should, I'm assuming for the place that I'm using, RabbitMQ, is DDMS, which is the main document repository that holds all of our official documents, all of our public documents, all of our internal documents. And when users update a document, it needs to send a message to the server so that the server processes the indexing tool and everything. And if any of those fail, then that means that the document never gets indexed. So probably that particular command should be stuffed in a dead letter queue if it fails over and over. Are we? Are we though? Let me make this go away. So all of this is a range, all the way down to this. It is. Right. And that's what I want to know. It's like, what of this am I going to be repeating over and over that I can do up front? And where do I put it? Yep, yep, yep. So yeah, so this mock helper get deposit transactions is the thing that does the let's create a whole bunch of random deposits. Uh, and so we'll, yeah. If I wanted transactions to be pre-populated at all. So this one shouldn't even care if there are other transactions or not. It'll be the get transactions that I need to seed some transaction data. Ever. I'll just be like, screw testing, let's just write this app. Yeah, if you want me to comment this a little more, then I can. Hmm. Okay, a DB set is your your set of table data. It's all of the rows in your table as queryable. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. So because we're mocking each of the DB sets. So we're essentially saying that so a transaction has related records, deposits, and transaction detail that will be affected by this one operation. Yeah, instead they're just going to be lists. Oh, yes, absolutely. So that would be if I wanted just the transactions and its related data, its aggregate data, then I could do var trans equals, where's my DB context? DB context mock is what it's called. Well, let's do var context equals so let's say that this was our entity framework context. If I wanted all transactions from this context, I would go the DB context dot the transactions DB set, which will give me back a queryable of all of the rows in the transactions table in the database. And then I could enumerate that. Well, let's pick another one because transactions is such a specific term. Let's say one of my tables is lookup just categories. So this is a table in the database, not a database transaction. So categories table, give me all of the possible records from the categories table like this. Yeah, they are lookup tables. I call them LU category. So these would be like the list of all possible categories that you can assign to a payee or to some establishment that you're going to pay money to, or some type of transaction. Yeah, I want to rename transaction as something else. It should be like financial transaction. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Put it at. Yep. Yeah, so we're filling in details, that's all. So yeah, yeah, exactly. So one thing that should happen is if I try to do an add for a deposit that's missing details, then this thing should validate the passed in model. Sorry, the actual method should validate the passed in model. And if that model is invalid, then it should return, I can't add this to the database because the model you passed me is invalid. And then the happy path is you pass me a model that does turn into a deposit entity and I can add it to the database. So this whole DB set thing is just mocking the whole context dot whatever table. And instead of going to the actual context, trying to connect to a database and get the queryable for the records, I'm just getting a queryable of a list of transactions. Cool. I still don't understand. Okay. I haven't even gotten down here yet. This was sample code that MKB gave us, but it does make sense. So I'm getting the result here of the operation as my act, and then I can check stuff with this. Is my result.id the ID that I was looking for? Or that I was trying to add, sorry, to my transactions. Correct. Yeah. Because isn't that what TDD is? You think of what you're trying to test and then I don't understand it at all. It hurts my head. They do? Oh no. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Here's our new deposit view model that we want to add to the database. That's what we're getting from the client. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Except for the method. Oh, okay. Far right side. Gotcha. Yes. Yeah. Correct. So it's a response model of int. What ID was saved? So normally what we're supposed to do in RESTful is provide the resource, which you can create by getting the ID and having the get endpoint. So API slash transactions or deposits slash ID. Ignore the mocks. Exactly. Yeah. And so my ID should be, because I added all of these, it should be my most recent transaction plus one. But I don't know how to test that. Yep. Right. I think this last one, yeah, is the only assert that I need. Did we make it through the function without an error? So I guess like our result has a was error flag that I set on it. if I encounter any exceptions, if model validation is incorrect, then I guess that I would want to, what's the word? I can't think of the cert. I mean, it's right there. Assert not false. Assert false. This. So essentially, that the only time that this would get set to true is if any part of this failed. Well, maybe just one of those. Ooh, yes. Or this. Actually, that's this one. Line 78, sorry. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, yeah. And I'm reading. I like Tyron's most recent comment. I mean, it was a good suggestion. Yeah. Yeah. Their language. Mhm. Oh, yes. Did it happen only once? Right. Which we're not going to know the ID in this case. But I can't with my parameters. There's no way for me to pass in an ID. So this is like you're going through this. You're going through, yeah, this form here, and you're filling it in. And so I don't have ID anywhere in the view model. So that's what this thing here is. Oh my goodness, where's Visual Studio? That's what this is setting up, filling in that form. Mhm. No. Yep. Identity. ID. Right. Right. Actually, now that you say that, what I can assert is that e.account ID is target account. Well, in this case, it's going to be one specifically because I'm just doing 1.2 string. Deposit reason is going to be in the deposit table when we do a dot add into the deposit table, which in this case, we're actually going to do it at the same time as the add for entity framework. So we will have a deposit record for our transaction. Oops. And what am I doing, comma? Deposit. And what did I call this? Reason ID. Should also be one. And then this transaction date goes on the main transaction. Okay, so that makes this make more sense to me. What we are actually trying to test here. I'll put that into a variable later. I just want to be able to see these, dang it. Ah, yeah, I want to do that. I was gonna do the in-memory database thing and then just have the one. I couldn't find any quick examples. But that is the approach I'd prefer to take. Or even a SQLite database that is part of the test. I could do that too. I think in this case it's going to be service under test. I mean, I didn't come up with this. This was from what's his face again, MKP. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and the reason that we're not using something else is because this is industry standard, from what I understand. That's why I'm not. You're allowed though. That's what these days are for. Oh, yes. Yes. Your whole team. All right, I'm fixing it. I'm fixing it. I'm using Iris John's recommendation. I'm fixing the name. Oh, I messed up. And Valenta's here. Okay. Thanks for hanging out, though. Oh, wait, what? Cool. Yep. I need to respond to Tyrandel. He's going off on me. But it's not that. I mean, it's like I copy and pasted this and I was trying to do all of the mocking setup, and so I hadn't gone through and made this my own, but that's okay. It's on my screen, which makes it mine. Oh, you could do stuff like this. You get a nice little timeout that says stop after 75 seconds, and you can tell it to throw an exception if it is errored, or the cancellation token itself. Right. I use them. I like using them. No, no, you can't because you have things to do and you keep trying to do those things and we keep drawing you in. Have healthy discussions. Yeah, it's funny. Both of my parents are Hispanic, have thick Hispanic accents, and I'm the only one that sounds like an American. I'm an American. I did not get no accent. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, but it's always a pleasure having you on. I really do like your opinions and your thoughts, and even if they're way over here, they're still valid, in my opinion. So I use them in the center of correctness, far away from where I am, nowhere even close to me. All right, bye. That was a lot of fun. That was really cool. Prog testing says I'm eating eggs. So Tyron, definitely don't pay too much attention to the code yet. This came from the github.com when MKB gave me some suggestions on how to use mock to set all of this up, how to mock the services that are getting dependency injected, how to mock the database calls so that we're not testing the database itself. We're just trying to test the functionality of the service. So I keep losing the service. It's going to be really hard for me to do. Because what I am going to try to do is validate this thing in this generic service that says I'm going to be one of those data entry view models, but you're not going to know how to validate me. So I'm going to need some kind of either attribute that does the validation for me, or like fluent validation on the data entry view model, so that I can do or first I would get my validator. So yeah, fluent validation is what I'm going to use. There's no question about it. I would do var validator equals, and then I'll have it injected above valid. I don't really know what the what this looks like, but I've used it before. And then I would say if not validator dot is valid, or validate, I think is the name of the function, data entry view model, then I have this thing that I'm going to return called a response model. And so that's one thing that would make this response dot was error false. Or true, sorry. Which would make this assertion true or false. Gosh. Oh man. Me and my listdexia. Haven't had that happen for a while though. Other than east and west. Anyway. So the point is that we're testing the logic inside of this function and not the connection to the database or whether the database knows how to do validation itself, but that my logic is doing what it's supposed to do without erroring. But I really do like your use a token cancellation token source. Standard practice, normal, do that. You don't even need to cancel after, but in case for some reason my test is expected to run longer than, I don't know, 5 seconds, because I'm using all lists and stuff that are local, which means I wouldn't actually need to create the cancellation token until we are about to perform the tests. What? Yeah, anyway, it's going to be here. I'm going to fix this. I can't leave it like this. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. But so you were also asking about what is SUT? What is system under tests? That's general terminology. I didn't put this in here, like I said, but I was familiar with it. And to my understanding, this is the phrase that is used. And as mentioned before, it's a bad reason to say, well, that's just industry standard. But if that was a bad reason all the time, then we would also not have naming conventions, coding conventions, and best practices. So to my knowledge, this is best practice to use the acronym SUT for the thing that is SUT. And then how is it created? Or where is it created? That was part of, again, this sample that I was given by MKB, who knew more about, so it's the real MKB, if you don't know who I'm talking about, who knows more about testing than I do, and I was just taking suggestions, and so he created a pull request conversation thing. And that was just the terminology that he used in there. Or not the terminology, the function that he used in there. View changes. So this is an abstract class, and all of my tests are going to inherit. And Dukasoff said that in Swedish, SUT stands for pacifist, I think is what he said. Danish. Sut is pacifist, pacifier. Oh, pacifier, like the baby thing, not pacifist. I know words. But anyway, this is going to be a base class that all of my test classes will use that can set up mocking in the way that he recommended. So now I have access to this. Nope, that's part of mock. I don't remember which portions of this. Oh, it is this mock of. My bad. So this mock of is for my service, my IDB context factory of Finan Man context. so that when my transaction service, my implementation of it, asks for an IDB context factory, it gets mocked here. Because I'm not actually using the factory. Yeah, this is going to be really hard to figure out for me. I'm still thinking that there are a million things that are not being mocked that are going to need to be mocked for this method. I really should start with the get method instead of the add method, but that's fine. Let's say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And so to get to the point, the SUT is the actual concrete implementation of the thing that needs to be mocked. So our system under test here is a transaction entry service. I am, and that was the issue that I had when I tried to write tests before. I was trying to make them way too complicated, and I need help with the making it simple. So the recommendation is run the test and get to I am at red. This one. Does that say 4.1 minutes? Okay, that was weird. Hello, Scott. Okay, so we know that we are failing, and that is because we're throwing an exception, system not implemented exception. So we get to implement our first method. Yeah, I still have a breakpoint. I just ran it without right debug attached. So what we should be able to do is find this service, server-side implementation of this service, add transaction data, and implement it. Oh, the breakpoint is why it took 5 minutes? Last time. Oh, because I was stepping through it and I was talking. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So let's implement this. This thing is going to be a success. The first thing that I normally do with this is I create a new return resp, which is a new response model base int. And then to do validate the view model. If view model is not valid, then add an error to red resp and return. Otherwise, we get to this point, which is the more interesting part. We get our DB context from our context factory with our cancellation token passed in case we are going to stop this process partway through. We are going to have an using. I think we can't use using on this, by the way. So async using var transaction equals await, or how do we do this? Context dot database dot create begin transaction async. I'm doing this in such a weird way. So I thought that there was an async using that we could do for things like this. But anyway, we create our transaction and surround this with a try catch. So the problem is that I usually put this stuff inside of my try catch, because what happens if we lose our connection on the server to the database? I don't want that to throw us an error 500. So what I normally do is find man context man equals. And actually, I'm going to try something slightly different. I'm going to make this default bang idb context transaction. idb context transaction. Wait, why did that say it's coming from? Oh, that's the right place. Because that's what this is, right? Oops, context. idb context transaction. That one's nullable. And then I'll put these two inside of here. And then I can't do a using for that. So that when I get down here, Ninja's here. Hello, Ninja. Is it an extension that tab viewer on the left? No, actually. All you have to do to get your tabs on the left is click on the little sprocket up here and say, I would like to see my tabs on the left, please. And if you're running Visual Studio 2022 and above, you can also set the option for colorize by, and it could be by file extension, by project. Right now, the only thing you can group by is by project, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I would like some more grouping options. Awesome. So yeah, I think you have to be in Visual Studio 2022 and above. The place tabs on left was there in Visual Studio 2019, but you weren't able to colorize. Okay, so if we hit an error during any of this process, so let's, for example, say I would like to throw if cancellation is requested from this point on, I guess. That way I can catch a task canceled exception. But if an exception happens, then I will say if transaction is not null, that means that we have a transaction that has started. Then I would like to roll back changes. And then finally, we're going to do add an error to the return response. Finally, we're going to clean up that transaction since we don't have it in the using block. Otherwise, the scope of it would be completely broken. We are going to say if transaction is not null, then await transaction dot dispose async. We are not passing in the cancellation token to either of these, because what if the exception was the task was canceled? Then if we try to pass that in here, then we're going to cancel this dispose, and we don't want to do that. You can't even pass in a cancellation token into dispose async. Same thing with rollback. I don't want to cancel the rollback. So Scott says, I tried tabs on the left for a week. I couldn't adapt and went back, but coloring is good. Awesome. I have trouble, or I go back and forth. I find there are instances when I do want my tabs across the top, like when I'm working CSS. I usually put the tabs across the top so I have more wide space so that I can essentially collapse this thing all the way down like this, because I'm usually looking at the project with Visual Studio open and the app open. Prog testing is like, Is that another Norwegian? I mean, Norwish person? And they're all talking in Norwish. I don't know Norwish. Oh, you guys are okay. Definitely enjoy your conversation. If it's conversation that you don't want me to be a part of, just talk in Norwish. I apologize for calling it Norwish if that offends you. It's Protesting's fault. It's Nerd Herder's fault, but Norwishians. But Protesting went along with it, so I'm going to assume it's not offensive. Because one person doesn't think it's offensive. Someone that doesn't really get offended very easily at that. And actually, now that I think of it, I have layouts for both of those. Oh, no, I don't. I must have reset Visual Studio some time ago. I have a layout for CSS work, and I have a layout for plain old everyday work. Okay. So by the time we get down here, we want ret_resp dot, or return ret_resp. Okay, and then we also have trans all the way down here. If we are fully successful, we will have an await context.savechanges async passing in the cancellation token. And if that is successful, we will have an await transaction commit async. And so the reason that you would want to wrap this in a transaction is, let's say that you have an operation that will do multiple save changes, and every single one of them must pass in order for the database to be updated appropriately. So that's going to be very important for all of our financial transaction stuff. When we're doing a transfer from one account to another account, that is two transactions that are logged in the database, where we are withdrawing money from one, depositing money to another, and both of those operations must be successful in order for it to be a completed transaction. If any part of any of those fail, we want to roll back the entire process. So that's why we're using IDB context transaction. ret_resp. I have a whole bunch of helper methods in my ret_resp. I'm going fast because I'm almost out of time. But you guys have been amazing today. Thank you so much for the conversations. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to add an error that says and actually I would have two versions of this. So if EX is task canceled exception, which I'm going to say to sex to what? Then and actually I don't even need the variable because I'm not doing anything with the variable. But the task to save the deposit was canceled. Going back and forth between using two L's versus one L. I believe it's one L, but cancellation token is two L's, and yeah, weirdness, I say. Else, and then we might be able to handle others. So we could have this in a switch expression or a switch statement. Probably a switch expression. Let's make it a switch expression real quick just because I love them. I'm sorry if you don't. So this equals, or add error, EX switch TCEX, and this will return this string, comma. And for now, we're just going to have everything else will be an unexpected error occurred while saving the deposit. Ooh, thank you so much for the follow. I am just a dev. Awesome name. I like it a lot. But we can, of course, handle multiple different types of exceptions here. So we should see, provided that neither of these are going to cause errors because we didn't actually mock commit. Yeah, we should see that the test could possibly pass, even though it's not, or sorry, the test won't pass because we haven't called add to transaction. So that would be hopefully this second error. Yep. So the second error says you have not added to transaction a record that we were expecting you to add. Awesome. Good. So this is definitely what I wanted. We have some tests for this method that we hadn't implemented yet, and so that's test-driven development. I love it. And Ninja is another full stack Blazor developer. You're building a big platform, hopefully. It is what they call a hand-rolled fake and is basically a mock object, but without the mocking framework. Was that an answer to something? Let me catch up on chat, but I need to end the stream here, so I'm going to go to big head mode. And then we will get back to this. So I will push this to GitHub. I will publish this video to YouTube tomorrow. You can see it immediately after the stream on Twitch as a VOD in case you missed it. Or it'll be published on Monday, actually. And yeah, come back on Monday because I stream Monday. Oh, don't know if I'm going to be here on Monday. I will find out tonight if I will be expected to show up for jury duty on Monday. So there, keep your eyes on Discord. So we have like 60 things that Dukasoft is already on top of. Keep your eyes on Discord if you are interested in finding out whether we're going to have a stream on Monday or not, as well as throughout the rest of the week. But it's Monday today, says Dukasoft. Check out Irish John Games today. I didn't do a shout out for Balint. I want to do a video shout out for Balint because I love his shout outs. I love the clips that your community takes of you. So check out Science Streams.
Hi, Moth Goth! Theo! We were just looking at a moth underneath the scope. Theo is amazing. Theo is so kind.
Oh, I want more. Yeah, check him out. He is a science streamer. He takes really close-up looks at different insects, different arachnids, just a whole bunch of different types of things. Talks science, talks some really interesting stuff that is way over my head. But his streams are always entertaining. I'm almost always lurking on there whenever he's streaming. Irish John Games is going to start his stream most likely in about 2 hours, unless he changes his time. Maybe 1.5 hours from now. But check him out as well. Shouted him out earlier. Anyone else on here that does stream that I haven't really shouted out? Captain Commerce might be streaming tonight. I don't know. He's probably in a meeting right now. But yeah, so I did want to catch up on chat, like I said. So perfect timing, just as you finished. Okay. Thank you for being here, Ninja. Thank you for being here, Tyron, Scod, Prog Testing, and Dukasoft, of course. Abadus. You guys were talking Nordwish for a while, so I could understand. But that's okay. Glad I could tell you about the colorizing. Jeg snakker veldig godt norsk. Probably terrible pronunciation. I apologize for butchering that. It was fun to read. I wanted to give it a shot. Nordwishians. No-wishians. Ouch. I have an ultra wide, so thinking of switching to tabs on the side. Awesome. That'll give you so much space. Or you could just turn it into an ultra tall. Operation canceled exception as well, yeah. both of those. So for some reason, it's like you don't know, or I did watch a video that explained, or maybe it was a blog that explained when task canceled exception happens versus when operation canceled exception happens. And I think it has to do with if the cancellation happens during a HTTP request versus if you call cancellation token source dot cancel kind of thing. But I can't fully remember. But yeah, I'll need to write a note real quick for that one. Where even is that? I know you can't see this. Operation canceled exception. Oh, and these can be discards because I'm not actually using the thing. That's what I was trying to do earlier. Anyway, cool. So there was that. What else is there? Just as he finished, prog testing was talking with Ninja about, what do you do? Are you a dev? And Ninja said, yes, full stack, deep into Blazor at home now, building a big platform, hopefully. Yeah, I was streaming a ton of Blazor, but now it's only 2 hours a day, disfortunately, unsaddeningly. And then prog testing said, I've been making a dashboard in WebAssembly today. And that's when live coding said the thing. And Dukasoft gave us our Discord link. Here's the project link. So you can see it on GitHub. When I push current changes, it'll be in a branch called Setup Transaction Service. And like I said, the YouTube videos will be posted. This time it's going to be on Monday. It'll be scheduled for Monday, so I won't have to actually actively do it because humans. And that's it for me. Awesome. So thank you all again for your time. We may as well raid someone because I have been for the past 3 days now. So I'm going to raid someone that I watched that is live that I've been lurking on their stream. So I was on Big Gaming stream earlier. We're going to go over to raid Bardaki. And like I said, check out Irish John Games when he starts his stream, and anyone else from our community, which we're a part of their community as well. Cancellation throw if cancellation requested will give you an operation canceled exception, and cancellation token source dot cancel will give you a task canceled exception. Oh. So what if you have both set? So you call cts.cancel, but you have cancellation token.throw if cancellation requested. Oh, I guess maybe it's more like a cascading type of thing. Anyway, you gave me a link. I'll read more on it. So thank you so much for that. I hope you guys enjoy your day. That's going to be it for me for now. Ciao. Cheers. Shalom. Bye. Read you later.